I came home that evening expecting nothing out of the ordinary. Just another day, another routine. But the moment I stepped through the door, I knew something was off. The air in the house felt different, thicker somehow, weighted with something unspoken. My wife, Emily, was on the couch, staring at her phone. Normally, she'd greet me with a smile or at least a quick, "Hey, how was your day?" But this time, nothing. Just silence, her eyes locked on the screen like she was hypnotized. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she was just tired, distracted. But then, I caught the way her fingers twitched when she saw me walk in. The way she subtly angled the phone away from my view. The quick tap of her screen, like she was closing something she didn't want me to see. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just took it all in, filing away each little detail. Later, I walked into the kitchen to grab a drink, and there she was again. Only this time, she was moving differently. Normally, Emily was relaxed in her own space, but now, she was shifting things around on the counter with a nervous energy. Every few seconds, she adjusted her phone's position, making sure it was always within reach but never too exposed. Then, the real giveaway. She picked it up, turned slightly away from me, and unlocked it. And right before she lifted it to read a message, she glanced in my direction, just for a split second, to see if I was watching. She was hiding something. I could feel it in my gut. But instead of confronting her, I chose to wait. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, to be that paranoid husband who freaks out over nothing. So I simply watched, took mental notes, and carried on with the evening like nothing was wrong. Yet, I couldn't ignore it. The shift in her energy, the way she seemed elsewhere. Distracted, distant. Like her mind was in another room, another life. Even at dinner, something was off. Normally, we'd talk about our day, laugh about some random thing that happened at work. But that night, her responses were clipped, her laughter forced. And whenever her phone buzzed, she'd glance at it with a flicker of something, excitement? Anxiety? Both. Before quickly flipping it face down. And the worst part? She thought I didn't notice. So, I decided to be patient. To collect the pieces before making a move. Because whatever was happening, it was just beginning. As the days passed, the feeling that something was wrong only grew stronger. It wasn't just a one-time thing, a weird off night. No, this was a pattern. A shift in behavior so subtle, yet so deliberate, that I knew it wasn't just in my head. Emily had always been on her phone, sure, but never like this. Now, it was always within arm's reach, always in her hand. And every time it buzzed, she'd react, just a little too quickly, just a little too anxiously. So I started keeping track. Quietly. Without tipping her off. At dinner, I made a mental note of every time she got a notification and how she responded. If her eyes flickered with tension, if she suddenly needed to step out of the room, if she lowered her voice when taking a call. And it was happening every night. One evening, we were watching a movie in the living room, a routine we'd had for years. But halfway through, her phone lit up, and she shifted in her seat. Then, with a forced casualness, she stretched, yawned, and said, "I'm gonna grab some tea." Except she never made tea. Instead, she disappeared into the bedroom, phone in hand. I waited. Listened. Nothing at first. Then, soft murmurs. A hushed, almost urgent voice. Hers. It wasn't the way she usually talked on the phone. There was something in her tone, something careful, measured. Like she was saying just enough, but not too much. When she came back a few minutes later, she plopped onto the couch and flashed me a quick smile, like nothing had happened. That was the moment I knew for sure. This wasn't paranoia. It wasn't just my imagination running wild. Something was happening right under my nose, and Emily was working hard to keep it hidden. But here's the thing about secrets. They don't stay secrets forever. The more she tried to cover her tracks, the more obvious she became. Her texts became shorter, more coded. She started taking her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. And on nights when she thought I was asleep, I'd hear her screen light up in the dark, the soft taps of her fingers typing messages she didn't want me to see. Then, one afternoon, I came home early. She wasn't expecting me, and when I walked in, she was sitting at the kitchen table, her back to me, phone in hand. I could see the reflection of the screen in the glass of the microwave, a message thread open, a conversation in progress. And then, the sound of my keys jangling in the door must have tipped her off, because she jumped. Not a small flinch. A full-body reaction, like she'd been caught red-handed. She fumbled with the phone, locking it so fast it was almost like muscle memory, and turned to me with a wide, forced smile. "You're home early," she said, too brightly. I just nodded, my mind already racing. Because I knew that reaction. That was the reaction of someone who knew they were doing something they shouldn't be. I didn't press her. Not yet. Instead, I just smiled back. Acted normal. Because I needed more. I needed undeniable proof. And I was about to get it. At this point, I had no doubt. Something was going on. But knowing it and proving it were two different things. I didn't want to be the guy who accused his wife of cheating without solid evidence. I needed more than gut feelings, more than suspicious glances and quick-drawn phone screens. I needed facts. So I started watching more closely. Emily's routine had shifted in ways she thought were subtle. But once I started paying attention, it was glaringly obvious. She was always leaving the room for phone calls now. And it wasn't just random, either, it was timed. Around the same moments each evening, just after dinner or right before bed, she'd get a message, glance at me, and then find an excuse to slip away. Then there were the nights she started going out with friends more often. Before, she'd barely made plans outside of work and an occasional girls' night. But now, suddenly, she had places to be, a lot. One Friday night, she told me she was meeting her old college friend, Lisa, for drinks. No big deal. I played it cool, kissed her on the cheek, and told her to have fun. But as soon as she walked out the door, I called Lisa. She picked up almost immediately. "Hey, what's up?" she said, cheerful as ever. I didn't waste time. "Hey, just wanted to check. Emily said she was meeting you tonight?" There was a pause. Then, "Huh? No, I haven't seen Emily in weeks." My stomach dropped. I forced a chuckle, played dumb. "Oh, weird. Maybe I misunderstood." "No worries." We exchanged a few pleasantries before I hung up, my mind already spiraling. She had lied. Straight to my face. And now, I needed to know where she really was. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I grabbed my jacket, got in my car, and followed her. I kept a safe distance, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. She drove across town, past the usual places we went together, and pulled into a quiet little parking lot near a restaurant I didn't recognize. And that's when I saw him. A man, maybe mid-30s, tall, confident. He was leaning casually against a car, scrolling through his phone. The moment Emily pulled in, his face lit up. She stepped out of the car, and without hesitation, she walked right into his arms. He wrapped her in a hug, a long one. One that wasn't just friendly. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he leaned down and kissed her. Not on the cheek. Not some polite, casual peck. A real kiss. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, watching my wife, the woman I had built a life with, melt into another man's arms like she belonged there. And the worst part? She looked happy. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen in place. Eventually, they went inside the restaurant together, and I forced myself to breathe. To think. I had my proof now. This wasn't just paranoia, wasn't just suspicion. Emily was cheating on me. And now, it was just a matter of deciding what I was going to do about it. I sat in my car outside that restaurant for what felt like an eternity, watching my wife laugh and lean into another man like she had no worries in the world. Like I didn't exist. Like our marriage was just some distant, irrelevant memory. I wanted to storm in there, make a scene, demand answers. But I knew better. That would give her the upper hand. Let her turn it into some dramatic argument where she got to play the victim, twist things, make me look crazy. No, I needed to be smarter than that. So instead, I took pictures. I grabbed my phone, zoomed in, and snapped a few shots of them at the table. Emily's glowing smile, the way she leaned in too close, how their hands brushed over the table like it was second nature. I caught the moment he whispered something in her ear, the way she bit her lip and looked at him like he was the only man in the world. Evidence. Cold, undeniable proof. And then I drove home. I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to destroy the fantasy she thought she was living. That night, Emily came home late. I was sitting in the living room, pretending to read, though my mind was far from calm. She walked in like nothing had happened, tossing her purse onto the counter and giving me a quick, casual smile. "Hey, babe." "Long night," she sighed, stretching as if she was exhausted. Lisa and I had so much to catch up on. She was so confident. She had no idea. I played along, nodding. "Yeah, that's nice. What did you guys talk about?" She hesitated for a split second before slipping off her heels. "Oh, the usual. Work, life, relationships." I almost laughed. Instead, I just nodded, my expression unreadable. "Sounds fun. You should invite her over sometime." She smiled. "Yeah, maybe." I let it go. For now. Because I wasn't just going to confront her, I was going to set her up. The next few days, I laid low. Watched. Waited. Gathered more proof. I checked her phone when she left it unattended, which was rare now, took screenshots of her messages, noted the times she disappeared. But the biggest break came when I reached out to his wife. That's right. I found him. It took a little digging, but social media makes people so easy to track. A quick search of his name, and there it was, his Facebook, his LinkedIn, pictures of his happy little family. His wife, Jessica. I debated for a long time before reaching out. Then, finally, I sent her a message. "Hi, Jessica. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk." It took a few hours, but she finally responded. "Jessica, who is this?" "I think your husband and my wife are having an affair." Silence. I stared at the screen, waiting, my heart pounding. Then, "Jessica, what makes you say that?" And that's when I sent her the pictures. She read the messages. Then she went silent for a long time. I almost thought she wouldn't respond, but then, "Jessica, I need to see this for myself." I agreed. Because I had a plan. The trap was set. Emily had no idea, but her little secret life? It was about to come crashing down in the most spectacular way. And I was going to make sure she never saw it coming. Jessica and I spent the next 2 days carefully planning how we would catch them in the act. She was just as determined as I was. Maybe even more. After all, this wasn't just my wife's betrayal. It was her husband's too. We decided on something simple but effective. We'd follow them together. No more assumptions, no more second-guessing. We needed irrefutable proof. I kept playing my role at home, pretending everything was normal, pretending I wasn't on to Emily. It wasn't easy. Every time she smiled at me, every time she kissed me goodnight, I felt my stomach turn. But I swallowed it down because I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to expose her. The night finally came. Jessica and I were parked a few blocks away from the hotel Emily and her lover had chosen, one of those upscale, discreet places that catered to people who didn't want to be seen. They thought they were being clever. They thought they were in control. They had no idea what was coming. We waited, our eyes locked on the entrance. And then, right on schedule, Emily's car pulled up. She stepped out, dressed to impress, heels, a short, tight dress, hair done in a way she hadn't styled it for me in years. My jaw clenched, but I kept my focus. A few minutes later, her lover, Jason, arrived. Jessica sucked in a sharp breath beside me. I could feel the anger radiating off her. Neither of them hesitated. No looking around. No paranoia. They were too comfortable, too deep in their little fantasy. We watched as they strolled into the lobby, laughing, completely carefree. They didn't even know their spouses were watching. Jessica turned to me, eyes blazing. "Are you ready?" I exhaled slowly. More than ready. And then we got out of the car. The hotel lobby was quiet, the kind of place where privacy was valued above all else. The receptionist barely looked up as we walked in, probably used to turning a blind eye to situations like this. Jessica took the lead. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp and businesslike. "My husband just checked in. Jason Reynolds. I need to know which room he's in." The receptionist hesitated. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't disclose that information." Jessica didn't miss a beat. She pulled off her wedding ring and slammed it onto the counter. "My husband is cheating on me in your hotel. Either you tell me where he is, or I start making a scene loud enough for everyone to hear." I had to give her credit. She was damn convincing. The receptionist paled, clearly not wanting any drama. She hesitated, then leaned forward, whispering, "Room 214. We didn't waste any time. As we approached the door, I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. Jessica and I exchanged one last look. Then I raised my fist. And knocked. There was a pause. Then shuffling. Then Emily's muffled voice. "Who is it?" I smiled coldly. "Room service." Silence. Then the door cracked open, just slightly, just enough for me to push it wide open. And there they were. Emily, Jason, half-dressed, frozen, staring at us like they had just seen ghosts. For a long, tense second, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Jessica stepped forward, her voice dripping with venom. Surprise. The room was dead silent. Emily stood there, frozen in place, her face draining of color so fast she looked like she might faint. Jason, on the other hand, had the audacity to step forward like he was about to try and smooth things over. Jessica wasn't having it. "You don't move. You don't speak." Her voice was razor-sharp, shaking with controlled rage. "I want to hear what your little excuse is this time." Emily finally found her voice. I can explain." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Oh, please. I'd love to hear you explain how you ended up half-naked in a hotel room with another man when you were supposed to be out with Lisa." She opened her mouth, then closed it. She knew. She knew she had nothing. Jason turned to Jessica, trying to put on some damage control. "Baby, this isn't what it looks like." "Oh, shut the hell up." Jessica threw his own phone at his chest, nearly knocking the wind out of him. "I went through your messages. All of them." Jason's face went blank. He knew. He knew the game was over. Emily's eyes darted to me, her breathing uneven. "Please, let's talk. In private. Please." No, my voice was calm, but absolute. "There's nothing left to talk about." I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder, the one I had been collecting for weeks. Screenshots of her texts. Photos of her secret meetups. Bank statements showing expensive little gifts I never received. I tossed it onto the bed between them. "This is everything," I said coldly. "All the proof. Every single time you lied, every night you snuck out, every time you thought you were getting away with it." Emily didn't even look at it. Her hands were shaking. Jessica crossed her arms, her jaw tight. "Oh, and just so you know, your little boyfriend here told you he was leaving me for you?" She took a step closer, glaring at Emily. "That was never happening." Jason's head snapped toward her. "Jess, wait, don't." She cut him off. "You're a liar and a coward. You two deserve each other." And then, in the most satisfying moment of my life, Jessica took off her wedding ring and flicked it at Jason's chest. It bounced off and hit the floor, the sound small but deafening. She turned on her heel and walked out, her head high. I followed. But before I did, I gave Emily one last look. "You made your choice," I said quietly. "Now you get to live with it." And then I walked away. The aftermath. The fallout was as brutal as I expected. Jessica filed for divorce immediately. She didn't give Jason a second chance, didn't let him try to win her back. She took her half of everything and walked away without looking back. Emily, on the other hand, she begged, pleaded, called me nonstop for weeks, leaving messages saying how she had made a mistake, how she didn't want to lose me. But I was done. She had months to choose me, and every single time she chose him. So I did what I should have done the second I caught her lying. I hired a lawyer. And just like that, the life she had taken for granted, the home, the stability, the marriage she pretended to care about, was gone. She got exactly what she deserved. Nothing. Moving on. It took time. A lot of it. But I healed. I focused on myself. Rebuilt my life. And slowly, I learned how to trust again. And Emily, well, from what I heard, things didn't exactly work out with Jason. Turns out, cheating isn't the greatest foundation for a relationship. She reached out once, years later. Sent some long-winded message about how she was sorry, how she had changed, how she wished things had gone differently. I read it. Then I deleted it. Because I wasn't that man anymore. I had walked away. And I had won. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.